Hey everyone, it's Poonexo with SkillCapped here. So I thought I may as well do something different in this video. It's basically just me going around in a battleground owning noobs, and I'm just going to be giving my thoughts and opinion on the Warlock spec Destruction, and the things I like about the spec and what I think could make it more viable in Arena, and why Unstable Affliction is so much more effective and beneficial for your team in Arena. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoy this video. I know Destruction is non-existent throughout SkillCapped, so you can let me know in the comments if you want to see more Destro clips and how you thought about this video. Alright everyone, so in no specific order, I'm basically just going to be talking about the Warlock spec Destro. So first of all, for all of those who played in Wrath of the Lich King, you can remember Destro Warlocks could literally one-shot you with a Chaos Bolt and Conflag crit. So you were basically able to do 20k damage in one global cooldown when people had roughly 30k health. And now in Cataclysm, people have roughly 150k health. When you crit with Chaos Bolt and Conflag, they both crit for roughly 20k. So I mean, things have changed dramatically since Wrath of the Lich King. When you're left alone in the open to free cast as Destro and Cataclysm, I mean, you can do alright damage, but I mean, imagine if you were UA, you'd be able to spread dots on the whole team rather than spam Incinerates into one person. And Incinerates crit for roughly 15k now. In Arena, for example, all it takes is one rogue to sit on you and lock out all of your casts, and their healer can just dispel your immolates, so you'll never really be able to do any damage at all. In my opinion, immolate should be similar to Unstable Affliction. When dispelled, it should silence or fear the target like Vampiric Touch, but even if they did that, Destro would still not be viable. Unstable Affliction would always be better. They'd be looking to do some extraordinary changes for Destro to be viable in this expansion. Don't get me wrong, Destro is an extremely fun spec to play in Battlegrounds and Arena, but whenever I play Destro in Arena, I always think to myself, imagine if I was Unstable Affliction here, I would do so much more damage, and I'd actually be able to get cast off while I'm being trained by rogues and warriors and whatnot. But after all, it is a game, and it's all about having fun, so if you are bored as a Warlock and you're sick of Unstable Affliction, I do recommend playing Destro. It's a nice change every once in a while. But one thing I really do like about Destro is the Imp Dispel. Now the Fell Hunter had this in Wrath of the Lich King, but they removed it and gave it to the Imp. It's basically a defensive dispel you can use on your teammates with a 6-second cooldown. It's really good for getting your healer out of polymorphs and traps, and if you're playing with a rogue or warrior, you can get rid of their frost novas as well. But comparing the Imp to the Unstable Affliction Fell Hunter, I'd much prefer the Fell Hunter for the spell lock and the random 30k shadow bites. As Destro, I always find I'm using my soul burn for an instant soulfire when I have Demon Soul up and I'm casting into the kill target, but this means I can't soul burn Hellstone or summon an instant pet, so if your pet dies you'll be stuck with that one for a while. And I mean, this is a huge problem for me, it always happens. So yeah, even though it's really tempting, I'd recommend not using soul burn for a soulfire unless you're 99% sure your pet won't die from soul link damage or single target damage. I find that when I'm playing Unstable Affliction in Arena and I'm being trained by melee, it'd actually be amazing to be able to Shadow Fury both of them. And I mean, if Destruction actually did good damage, I think it would be viable purely because of Shadow Fury. It's that amazing. Not only can you use it to peel for yourself, but also your healer. And one way you can really effectively use Shadow Fury is if there's a healer pillaring and you can't lend any fears, you Shadow Fury them as they come out to heal their teammates, and you get a full fear that way. Another idea is to use a Fell Hunter as Destruction, but I'll tell you why I don't think that's viable at all. First of all, when you have an Imp out and you spec into Improved Imp, your Imp can allow you to get free instant Soulfire procs, which is really good. They crit for roughly 20k on full result targets. And yeah, also you get that 6-second dispel for your teammates. But on top of that, the only thing that makes the Fell Hunter so good for UA is when all your dots stack up, you get % damage increase for Shadow Bite, and you have that Unstable Affliction to protect all your dots. But as Destruction, when you stack Immolate with your dots, they pretty much instantly get dispelled against any good healer. So your Shadow Bite's probably only going to crit for 6 to 7k, if that. And on top of that, you don't have as many dots as Unstable Affliction, so it's not going to hit as hard in general. I mean, the highest rating I got this season as Destruction was 2200, and I was playing UA Warlock, Destro Warlock, and Resto Shaman. But comparing that comp to every UA comp I've played on my Warlock, it's nowhere near as good. I personally think if Destro was viable in Arena, it would have a much higher skill cap than Unstable Affliction. Basically because you have to set up your burst, and you can't just spam damage on their whole team whenever you want, like Unstable Affliction. And also the Imp Dispel. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, you could define a good Warlock from a great Warlock from how they use their Fell Hunter to dispel their teammates. Just for example, if you saw a mage casting Polymorph and you hit your dispel macro the second they landed the polymorph and instantly got your healer out of the poly, rather than waiting 2 or 3 seconds reacting to when the polymorph was on your healer. Okay, so we all know warriors and hunters have execute and kill shot. So basically warlocks only have one thing comparable to those, which is drain soul when they're unstable affliction. But as destruction you get pretty much an execute, which is shadow burn. When the target's below 20% you basically get a free conflag. And you can imagine how OP that would be if destro damage scaled like it did in Wrath of the Lich King. But this is how I see things. A warlock and Chaos Bolt conflag on the same GCD, and they both have the potential to crit for 20k. And your execute ability, which is Shadow Burn, has the potential to crit for 20k as well. But now I compare that to a Frost Mage who can Ice Lance for over 40k and Frostbolt for over 40k. It's actually ridiculous because a Warlock has to get the immolate up first before they can conflag, and a Mage can just get a Fingers of Frost proc and use Ice Lance to get the 40k crit. And just comparing Destro Warlocks to Frost Mages makes Destro look absolutely pathetic. So basically a Destro Warlock is the same as a Frost Mage, except you have to cast to do damage, and you do about half the damage a mage can do. So we all know UA warlocks have a spell called Shadow Ward, which basically gives them an absorb to all shadow damage, and it has a 30-second cooldown, and it's roughly about a 12k absorb. So when you spec destruction, you can choose to go into Nether Ward. So it's the same principle as Shadow Ward, except it absorbs all schools of damage. But then after getting Nether Ward, you can also spec into Nether Protection. So how this works is basically, say you're versing a Frost Mage. If you use your Nether Ward and you get Frostbolted or Ice Lanced, you get a 30% damage reduction from Frost for the next 12 seconds. This is absolutely amazing, but if you can recall back in the day of Wrath of the Lich King, when Destro was actually viable and you saw it a lot, people were aware of how this works. So if you were versing a Frost Mage, for example, and they saw you put Nether Protection up, they would Fire Blast you, for example, so you had the damage reduction, but it was to fire, so then they were still able to use all their frost spells and get the max effect out of it. So if you did actually see Destro around these days and it was viable, I'm pretty sure everyone would adapt to that same strategy again. But either way, I still think the spell is amazing. I think if they gave UA Warlocks that talent, it would be way too overpowered. But at the end of the day, even though Destro does have that talent, it's still nowhere near as good as UA. The main thing is the damage. I mean, if the damage got scaled higher, I can see Destro being viable. The Shadow Fury, Imp Dispel, and Nether Protection alone isn't anywhere near enough to actually make the spec viable. Alright guys, so in a nutshell, these are the things that I mainly think need to happen to make Destro viable. So first of all, an overall damage increase. If mages are able to instant cast for 30k and higher, Warlock should be able to incinerate for 30k and higher, if not more. Second of all, Destro needs some sort of dispel protection because, as I said, being trained and having a healer dispel your immolates instantly is pretty much nerfing your damage so much. So that's basically it guys. I hope you enjoyed this video of me just ranting on about Destro. I know there's no current Destro content out on Skillcraft at the moment, and honestly at this point in time I don't have enough time to be able to record footage of me playing Destro in Arena, so I hope this will do for the moment. Anyways guys, this is PhoenixO with Skillcraft. Thanks for watching and have fun in the arena.